Welcome back.
Yes.
Episode 5. Episode 5. I think before we even start discussing the topics, which will include the parasha and then some questions from the previous podcast, there were two things I wanted to bring up with you. First, I know you went to this event last night with Mordechai Kedar, so I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on it. And then second, I had an experience on Motzei Shabbat that I wanted to talk about. I think it might be something a little interesting to hear your thoughts on certain things. So, first with Mordechai Kedar, what do you think about his speech?
He's truly one of the top experts of Middle Eastern history. Understands it extremely well, extremely thorough. When I say Middle Eastern, I'm not simply talking about the current state of affairs, but going back 2,500 years ago. He's an expert in Persian history, in pre-Islamic history, in Islamic history. He knows the Quran in and out. He knows Arabic fluently. He understands very, very, very well the cultural mind of the Middle East. And this is something that he brought up yesterday, as well as in his many, many interviews where he speaks either on Israeli news channels or even on Al Jazeera, where he debates Muslim scholars and professors and politicians that challenge the state of Israel. He knows exactly how to respond, and they have nothing to say back. I've heard him very often on YouTube and also on Israeli news channels. He's phenomenal. The Western mind has a problem. The Western mind's problem is only thinks in Western terms. And that's a problem.
So elaborate on that. What do you mean?
This is something that we also spoke about in the past, where what is Torah Sheba'al Peh, ultimately? What is an oral tradition? An oral tradition is the cultural values and the mechanism of deciphering one's reality according to the context and conditions as to where they are and what they received. That's really what oral tradition is. Every nation, every tribe, every family has an oral tradition. It's something of the past. We have our own oral tradition. Okay, Torah Sheba'al Peh, great. Venezuela has their oral tradition. America has its own oral tradition. Within America, forget about the demographics that we have today of people from Latin America and different places, different countries. The oral tradition of Black Americans, the oral tradition of Irish Americans, Italian Americans. Forget about that even. We have 50 states in this country. Every state, as a matter of fact, has its own flavor of why the state is the state that it is.
It has its own constitution, for example.
It has its own constitution. It has, although we all share the same values of America when it comes to the Constitution and the rights, that yes, but the oral tradition of the people of Wisconsin is different than the oral tradition of people in Georgia or in Florida. It's different. Why? Because for decades and centuries, the people in those places lived differently. The conditions were different. The economies were different. Some were farmers, some were cattle ranchers, some were slave owners in plantations, cotton fields, oil people, merchants, construction people, Hollywood. They all have their own flavor. They all have their own lens of perception and understanding things and deciphering things. Okay? It's nothing, it's not complex to understand, but it is complex to keep that in mind in order to understand what you are trying to understand of the other person. You cannot use your values in order to understand others. You got to use their values to understand who they are within themselves. And the way to master it really is to master their language, but really, really well. Language is the code of a people. The virtues, the values, the fears, the anxieties, the successes, the ambitions, how they even view others. When you say, I'll give you an example. For American people, if I say the word respect, it has its own definition. Okay. Yes, you need to respect. You need to show value to someone else, respect. Okay, some examples. All right, I see somebody that is coming behind me, so I'll keep the door open for them. Okay, that's a courtesy. It's really respect to the person. I need to respect the judge if I'm in his presence. I need to respect the police officer. There's a certain respect, okay? Is the respect that America today has for its parents and grandparents different than the respect America had 50 years ago for their parents and grandparents? Absolutely. You would never hear a person who had parents ever use foul language in their presence. Ever. Ever. Now, it's become common. Okay? Now.
I'll take a step further on that point also. I feel, and this is what I've experienced as well, even to address someone older than you as Mr. or Mrs., correct, that's also like
it's going
slowly evaporated, okay, right?
So the Torah Sheba'al Peh of America is changing. Okay. Now, if I would tell you, let's talk about the value of respect in the Middle East. This is a different story. Oh boy. A younger person would not even speak in the presence of older people if they're talking among themselves. He's quiet. The utmost respect they have to their parents. They would never ever say anything that's offensive, that's not even in concurrence of what their parents think. They'll keep it to themselves. They would never go against the word of their parents in public. They would never do that.
They wouldn't disagree with them.
Not only that, they would never smoke in their presence. Today, that's still in the Middle East. So you see, even when we say the word respect, the value of respect, hold on a second. We got to look at it from what lens are we speaking about? What are we talking about? From where? Who? Japan is also very different. The word of respect. Okay? China, the same. Colombia, the same. Everyone has their own flavor of what it means to respect. So therefore, you have the value of respect. Torah shebechtav. That's Torah shebechtav. Respect. Okay, great. Now, the Torah sheba'al peh of each one of those different cultures comes to define, this is how you're going to apply the practice of respect. This is how it's going to unfold. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Well, it's acceptable in America. You're not in America if you're in Pakistan. You can't do that. That's disrespect. And it goes with everything else. It really goes with everything else. So one of the things that he was saying, and I also say this, I mean, many years, the problem that we have is we do not understand the Middle Eastern mind and culture. We don't understand it. So, because we're looking at through our own lens with our own value system of saying, well, how can they do this? How can they do this? No. Once you understand where they're coming from, you understand this is why they do this. Be it, whether you agree with it or not, whether you want to define it as good or evil, that's a different story. But you'll understand why they behave the way they behave. You'll understand why they treat each other the way they treat each other. Why? Well, we don't do this. Yeah, because you have a different set of values. You have a different Rashi Ba'al Peh. This is it. It's so key to understand this. So if I really want to start to understand the Middle Eastern mind, I need to become more fluent with Middle Eastern literature. Not only their history, but also their religious literature, their secular literature, their songs, their poetry, their politics, their aspirations. What value does money have for them even? What does money mean to them? Money means to them very different than money means to us in a capitalistic world. It's very different. Even money. Lives. What does death mean to them? What does death mean to us? This is it. It's not universal. No way. It's not universal. The only thing universal, I have to say this. The only thing universal that we have as a human species is that we shared the same genetics. Beyond that, pretty much there's nothing universal. Hence, there's no hence the argument whether or not there's something called natural law and natural morality. Some say there is. Some say that no, there isn't. Because if that was the case, then everybody would agree to behave in a natural way. And ethics and morals can be understood through nature, but we don't find anything ethical and moral in nature, as a matter of fact. We don't. It's all about survival. And if you want to tell me that survival is key, and my survival is going to define ethics and morals, then we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. The first 50, 60 years of the past century demonstrated that very clearly, beyond a shadow of a doubt. That we have to understand that ethics and morals have to come from a superior being that's recognized that he is the one who governs. He is the one who can tell humanity, who has the right, as a matter of fact, to tell humanity what is right and wrong, what is good and evil.
Very interesting.
It's a very powerful subject, very powerful point that it's not taken too seriously, unfortunately, because we think we know it all, but we don't know.
No, I think we keep making the same mistake over and over again. And I think that with what Dr. Mordechai Kedar is doing, as much as he's sounding the alarm, like, yeah, some people are paying attention and listening, but has it really moved the needle? Maybe. Maybe not. Time will continue to tell.
We'll see. One thing I can be sure of, based on the pattern of Jewish history, from pre-Abraham, pre-Bnei Israel, pre-Jewish people at Sinai, from Abraham, okay, I can pretty much bet that based on the pattern, that things are going to work out well in the course of time. How long? I don't know. What are the conditions? Are we going to have to go through some painful suffering? Probably. But based on the pattern, which is the covenant, I believe and I hope that things are going to turn out well at the end of the day for Am Yisrael, as well as those who have peace with us. You know, whoever blesses you is going to be blessed. This is how God says this. Yeah, so we believe in that word. Yeah. God. Not only does God never make mistakes, God fulfills His word. Somehow, some way. We just don't understand the mechanism. Exactly. Yeah. God fulfills His word.
Yeah. Full stop on that. Yeah. Fascinating. The second is, this is going to come out of left field, and I think you might enjoy it though. Saturday night, I had a friend who was planning a surprise birthday party for his wife, whatever. Long story short, and it just ended up being, we just ended up in this place. It's like a nightclub situation, packed, packed. Like I've never seen more people. I've never seen people from all demographics of the world going just to hear blaring music, drinking at the bar, dancing their night away. At a certain point, Ellie and I, we were just like, okay, we just gotta go. This is just not for us. Mm-hmm. So Ellie, it's funny because Ellie isn't so exposed to it. She's like, why do people do this? Why? What is it about it? So we were talking about it, and I wanted to hear your perspective. What draws people to those environments? Why is dance and music and song and drink and alcohol and everything that comes with it, it's such a primal feeling? It is. What's about it that continues to draw people so much in it that they spend nights on end, one after the night, one Saturday night after the next, or one weekend after the next, finding places to go and party the way that they do?
Well, put away that there is definitely beauty in song and music. Absolutely. I think music is the language of the soul. How is it that if you just listen, if you just break down music and it's just sound, it's a beat and a sound. That's all it really is. Forget the lyrics. Just beat and sound. How is it that this sound actually affects us, affects our mood and our emotions? Even can inspire us? No words. That's something so genius. It's absolutely genius that even the Torah says that the children of Lemech, one of them, he's the ancestor who invented music, right? Because it's something so extraordinary, to the point of really as if it's a divine wisdom that was given to humans to do this. I think music affects the abstractness of the human, which is our soul. It speaks to our soul. Because really, if you would just separate the beat on its own and the melody on its own, and you would just listen to each one alone, it makes no sense. It sounds totally disordered and chaotic. The brain can't handle it. But you put them together, you have a beautiful symphony. You have beautiful songs. It's just something truly inexplicable. So let's put that aside. Dance is something also dance is a ritual. Look at it as a ritual. It's a form of human expression.
It is.
Okay? Music is also a form of human expression, but dance is the physical way of how humans express themselves in certain ways. It could be something that it could be done with grace, and it also could be done with, nowadays, it's perversion. Total perversion. It's not even dance. All right? So what is it about it? Is that, again, it gives people a form of expression. And now when you add alcohol in the mix, what does alcohol really do? It removes our inhibitions.
And it's dark in there, and the lights, and the whole environment.
It gets you in that mood of, I want to do whatever I want to. I don't want to be constrained, because I've been constrained for 5 days a week in my job. I'm in a certain order and discipline. I got to produce. I got to do this. Restrictions. I have a boss. I got to go home. I got to this. I want to get loose. So, many cultures, their form of looseness has nothing to do with the intellect, has nothing to do with sanctity. Their form of looseness is something that has to do with feeding the impulsive nature of oneself, the physical nature. Right? At the end of the day, when they wake up Monday morning, like, what did you get out of it? And they're in the cycle again.
Right.
That's it. Right. Whereas Am Israel, okay, as well as other cultures, they say looseness is not thinking that you can do whatever you want to do and behave in a bestial manner. No. No. You want to be loose? You don't work. Take that time, take these moments in order to do something that's sacred. That's why we call it Shabbat Ladonai. What does that mean, Shabbat Ladonai? Shabbat Ladonai basically means I'm going to do something that has true value in order for my inner soul, my humanity to enjoy, and I'll understand what it means to be more of a human, not a beast. It's important that we work. The Torah says, 6 days, do your work, do whatever you want. You don't have to do 6 days. You can do, if you can do in 2 days, well, good for you. Support yourself for 2 days, wonderful, great, right? But one day, focus on what it means to be a human. That's really what Shabbat is about. The priorities. Working does not mean I'm a human. It's necessary for humanity, but it's not the definition of what it means to be human, with Tselem Elohim, with a soul. That has to do something with my intellect. That has to do something with my psyche. That has to do something with reflection of what purpose do I have. That is Shabbat. Shabbat is where we connect with others. We connect with God. Connecting with others should be also something that we feel that we also connect with God at the same time, collectively. So we sanctify the moment. We sanctify a place, hence we pray in a place. It could be one's home. It could be a synagogue, right? And that's how and at the same time, we're sanctifying ourselves by saying, on Shabbat, God told me I'm free. But look how I behave.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, Torah Sheba'al Peh. This is the oral tradition of different cultures. This is part of it. What does the day of rest mean? No, okay, I have a day off.
Right.
I'm off from Saturday to Sunday. Great. So what does my oral tradition tell me to do? I can go party for 48 hours. Okay. Or I can sanctify my time. Oral tradition, background, culture. Listen, there's cultures, right? The moment that it's 5 p.m. Friday, they're drinking. They're drinking, nonstop. Nonstop. And they spend their paycheck on that weekend for 2 days. But that's because they're in that culture. That's what they know.
It's what they know? I guess it's what they know.
That's what they know.
But when you say it's what they know, it kind of make them victim to the culture that they're in.
I don't like that word victim. No, they're not a victim. They still have a choice to say, do I enjoy getting a hangover every Monday morning, going to work? What am I doing? What am I doing with myself? Did I spend quality time with anybody except with my bottle? And jump up and down and sweat in a club? Among other things, to avoid.
Yeah, it's just fascinating.
When I say they don't know, it's because they choose not to know.
Right.
It's a choice not to know. Even those who are living in Christian and Catholic countries, they know. They choose not to know. Dia Sagrada, the sacred day is a Sunday. You go to church. No.
Replace it with something else.
Okay, exactly.
Replace it with soccer. Football.
By the way, that's why in America there used to be a law, and certain states still have this law, that on Sunday, liquor stores do not open until midday.
Really?
Yeah, that was a law based on religious tendencies, So people will go to church and not go to a liquor store and not go to a bar in the morning.
First thing, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Some states still have that law.
Very interesting. I didn't know that.
It's important.
Right. So based on what you want your outlet to be, it's not to say that we don't have outlets of our own.
Of course we do. We're supposed
Right?
to.
We're supposed to, right?
But never out of control.
Right.
Never to the point where we lose our Tzelem Elohim. Getting drunk is prohibited according to Jewish law, contrary to what some people say, including rabbis, that it's a mitzvah to get drunk on Purim. Really, that is one of the 7 rabbinic mitzvahs. No, it's a mitzvah. How can you desecrate the day? How can you desecrate even the word mitzvah to get drunk? It's not a mitzvah to get drunk. Or on Simchat Torah, we're going to dance with the Torah getting drunk? What a desecration. What a Hilul Hashem. It's truly an abomination. People who promote this and who do this in front of others. You want to get drunk in your house? Get drunk in your house alone. Don't justify and excuse it that the Torah, Jewish law, allows this. The pagans would get drunk when they would come to their pagan rituals, to their gods. We don't do this. We're not, according to halakha, we're not even allowed to eat and drink in a synagogue. Forget what goes on nowadays. In the synagogue, in the sanctuary, we're not allowed to eat or drink. We're not allowed to. Why? You're making it profane. Then you have rabbis, well, no, it's for the simcha. Oh, really? So I can do things contrary to Jewish law, contrary to proper behavior, if it's for simcha, for happiness? Really? If that's the case, bring taref, bring non-kosher, bring women, bring strippers. Why not? Why not? What is that? Cocaine? What about cocaine? No, why not? It makes you happy. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. That has become, unfortunately, a standard. Does not mean it's correct. By the way, do you know that the majority of the Jewish people don't eat kosher? In the world, the majority of the Jewish people don't eat kosher, right? Does it mean that it's correct?
I see what you're saying. I think
it's not the norm.
It's not the norm. Right, I understand. Right, but within the realm of observance and keeping and those who observe halakha, it's a misinterpretation with getting drunk, and that's where the issue really stems from.
Correct. No, but they choose to misinterpret. I'll tell you why they choose to misinterpret. They read one line in the Talmud, but they don't read the rest of the passage of the paragraph.
They don't read the sugya.
One day we'll cover that also, and we'll demonstrate where this is so erroneous to do this. It's not right. It's not proper. It's not. Okay. Let's get something very, very clear. In this podcast especially, the only being who is infallible is God. Period. Every human being on the planet that ever was and will be is fallible. Does make mistakes. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter greatness or not. It doesn't matter how intelligent or not. It makes no difference. Every human being is fallible and makes mistakes. Right. That's it. This is one of the premises of this podcast. So therefore, we could, I don't want to use the word criticize. No. We could visit certain behaviors that are unacceptable being done by anybody who might be great. Okay, Moshe messed up. Okay, he messed up. The Torah tells us 4 times. It says this. You know why the Torah says it 4 times? To tell you, he didn't. Don't. No, it's emphasized. Yeah. The children of Haron messed up. It says it 4 times. 4 times it's repeated. Okay, so that is the beauty of the Torah also. Right. The beauty of the Tanakh. No one gets a free lunch. Nobody. Yeah. People make mistakes. We are not God. We are flesh and blood.
Right. And I think it's a great segue, by the way, for what we're about to discuss in the parasha as well.
So this parasha, a lot of action going on. Clearly, the Jewish people messed up. Their leaders messed up, with the exception of Yoshua bin Nun and Caleb bin Yefuneh. And the people bought into the propaganda, we'll call it, of the other 10 spies that went to give the report to Moshe Rabbeinu. Initially, the report was factual. They told Moshe exactly what he asked. Okay. However, 10 of the other spies, they said, well, we can't do it. We can't overtake this place. We can't conquer it because they're powerful. We looked like grasshoppers. Their cities are fortified.
They're too mighty.
Too mighty. And God pretty much messed up. Pretty much.
It caused pandemonium.
Major pandemonium because the people bought into the propaganda is very easy to sell. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed, by the way. The masses buy into propaganda.
What is propaganda based on? It's based on, usually it's based on emotion. It's based on taglines.
Fear. Fear is the main component. And anytime you add fear into the mix, you got the people. If you sell them that, you control them. The person, the Torah tells us of the first propagandist, Paro.
Okay. Oh, sure. Paro and his people and his leaders. Yeah, sure.
Paro.
Right.
He speaks directly to the people of Egypt, and he tells them, "This Hebrews, they are too many. They're all over the place. They're too powerful." What are you talking about? They live in a place called Goshen, northeastern part next to Canaan. They don't have an army. They don't have a state. They don't have a government. They don't have alliances even with outside empires. They live here. They're a bunch of shepherds. They don't own land. What power are you talking about? Oh, but they're very influential. They have a stake here. They know how to maneuver things.
Right. And they're going to make an alliance.
Yeah. They might make an alliance with our enemies and basically bring us down with the enemies from outside. So if you look at what Paro tells his people from the first chapter of Shemot, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. He is using fear tactics in order for the people to do his own bidding, because the Egyptians are the ones who enslaved the Jews. Without the consent of people, governments have zero power. Without the consent of people paying taxes, the government is broke. He knew what to do, as well as he used the resentment the Egyptians had to what Yosef did to them with the first 2-3 years of the hunger, quote unquote.
Right.
Basically, they became totally poor. They lost all their land, they lost their cattle, they lost everything, and they became serfs and servants to Pharaoh. So this Pharaoh, the new one, used that against the Hebrews, and the people bought it. Absolutely. The first one who figured this out was the Paro in the Chumash of the book of Exodus. And again, he's the paradigm for all other propagandists, for all other dictators, for all. Well, he's like, he's the archetype. This is how it works, right. And it always worked.
Right.
If you study history seriously, what made nations commit horrible crimes? Be it to their own people and be it to others. Fear.
Is the fear of something.
Therefore, if I'm going to sell an idea to a people that this is how you're going to survive, It's based on fear. Fear means my survival. Again, it's the deepest part of our brain. It's the deepest part of our brain, survival. Now, we needed fear, according to anthropology. Fear was necessary for us. Why? We're going to be devoured by some wild animal because we're living outside in the field. So fear is necessary for survival. It's true. Okay? But at the same time, where's our reason? Our reason and judgment has to control that and say, is this something that I really should be fearing or not? I should definitely fear if a lion is running after me and chasing me. I should definitely fear that if I see a piece of concrete that's dingling and dangling, get the heck away from there. That fine. Yeah. But words require processing. Hence, we spoke about, I believe, in past podcast or before, where in Judaism, lishmoa is key, to listen,
right.
to process.
This, yeah.
To process, and then you make a decision, and then you react. When we are impulsive, it's because we're not processing with our reason. So going back to this, yeah. the people bought into the propaganda. There's a whole mess going on. Moshe and Aharon fall on their face. Some commentaries say that they fell on their face, basically saying, we don't know what the heck to do. It's as if they gave up. Some commentaries say, I think Saadia says, that they fell on their face in order to receive a message from God, how to respond. Okay, and they respond to them. Caleb responds to them. Caleb and Yoshua respond to them. Yeah. Say, what are you guys doing? We can go and we can do this. If God wants us to take us into the land and give it to us, then He's going to do it. Don't rebel against God. Don't rebel against God. Right? Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid of the people in the land. Right. Because we definitely have the upper hand. What they're saying also is that they heard what Adonai did for us. He brought down Egypt, the most powerful empire in the area.
Right, and that's also reflected in Sefer Yeshua with Rahav. When the two spies go to Yericho, and they stay by Rahav.
She says, "I
heard what happened. We heard what your God did in Egypt," and we're like,
they were terrified. So the people, the 10 spies, didn't believe in themselves and didn't believe in God's word.
They doubled down after Caleb tries to turn the tide and say, guys, wait, slow down. It's really not as bad as you think, and we can do it because we've God on our side. The other 10 spies then doubled down and they say, no, it is even worse than what we're saying.
That's the whole dibah. Yeah. Right? So they wanted to they wanted to stone them. And suddenly the presence of God descends to Ohel Moed. So now this is the part where I want to get into. This is the subject. Now God says to Moshe, up until what point are these people going to just pretty much rebel against me all the time? This is the 10th time already. What basically God is saying, what do I need to do in order to demonstrate that I fulfill my word? That I do as I promise? What else do I need to demonstrate?
The people have trust issues.
It's because they're not processing properly. Their mechanism, their culture, which is really slave culture, Egyptian/pagan culture, right? Susceptible culture. Doesn't let them think clearly and see things the way they are. Let me process this. It's reactionary.
It's a victim mentality.
Yeah, victim, but it's also reactionary. Hold on a second. Process. What are you reacting? 10th time.
Right.
Okay. Here. Until what point are they not going to trust me after all the wonders that I did within their midst? I demonstrated them. He said, God says this.
It's not just that, it's also on a day-to-day basis that they're witnessing. Whether it's the ananei kavod, whether it's the ish at night, whether it's God providing the man,
the quail,
how much, like, it's so funny because,
water.
I mean, it's funny because, or it's a little bit ironic because it's really Moshe Rabbeinu says it first in last week's parasha. He's like, they're gonna, like, what more can I do? What the heck am I supposed to? And God is the one calming him down. And
that's the beauty of it. It's the beauty of the relationship that now Moshe is going to calm God down.
In a way,
it's beautifully narrated. Now, the people are complaining. Now, if we think about what is it about complainers? Complainers only see themselves, they do not see the bigger picture. When we complain, our focus is on the I only. Where's God? Nowhere to be found. Why is it that you're only looking at this little dot? What about everything else? Everything else is what God is constantly providing and giving you a blessing. When we complain, we take God out of the picture. He has no room. When we don't complain, when we're content, when we go through our struggles with trust in God and oneself that we'll work things out, somehow we'll work it out, maybe not as planned, because it usually never goes as planned, but I'm going to be grateful that not only am I going to find a solution for this challenge, but because I have this challenge, it's going to propel me. That is where God is in the picture. But when we complain, we shut God out. That's why we should never complain. You know why we should also never complain? There's always worse. There's really much worse than people think. Oh, how bad is it? Oh boy.
So okay, so on that, because aren't there times when, and I'll go back to last week's parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu effectively was complaining to God.
It's not a complaint. I need a solution. Moshe is saying, I need a solution.
Okay.
In order for me to be able to continue to lead these people, I need you to help me out. I need assistance.
So it's an expression, so here's to really parse it out. It's one thing to express a frustration in search of something more. Or it's one thing to express a frustration, to let it out, put it aside, and then move forward with what you're doing.
I want to find a solution. People who complain are focusing on the problem. People who don't complain focus on solutions.
You're using it in a very specific way, because complain means, oh, you just...
What can't you complain about?
Oh, complain about
listen, you can complain from the moment you're born until you're dead. Okay. Why was I born? People are depressed actually think this way.
100%. It's funny. It reminds me, anytime I think of complaining, it always brings me back to when I was in YU, in Yeshiva University, because I remember the first day and the first year, and then it really carried out through the rest of my time there. And this is something that I would relate to my friends or relate to anyone going into Yeshiva University. Unfortunately, there are times when just the culture and just the environment was just full of just people complaining, whether the food stank, whether the dorms are terrible, the weather, the wind, everything's old, the area, it's in Washington Heights. What a like we're living in the most gorgeous area of this, right? Obviously, it's being sarcastic, but the complaining was nonstop. So I remember I would speak about this with Yosef a lot, and other people who were going to YU, and I would say, look, you're gonna hear so many people complaining. And sometimes it's valid. Yeah, Shabbat isn't the greatest there. Shabbat Pro can definitely be good, and it's something that YU has been challenged with for a very long time. Yeah, the food can be a little bit better for sure, but think about it like this. You have kosher food nonstop. Everywhere you look in this place. You have a Jewish schedule. where you don't miss classes because of holidays. It's all baked in. It's all baked in for you. You have an opportunity for Jewish studies to continue and pursue, whether you want to be in the highest level learning programs where you're going until 2:30 or you're going till noon. You have an opportunity to learn a whole diverse range of Judaism. You have opportunities with career. You have opportunities with the degrees that they offer. You're gonna, what's, like, really?
They choose not to see it.
Choose not to see it. So block out the complaints as much as you can and focus on the good, because there's so much good the place has to offer.
There's much more good in the world than bad. So sometimes when my teenage students, sometimes they complain like that. It doesn't matter what it's about. I tell them two things. I go, let me tell you a fact of life. Number one, no one cares about your complaints. They might be polite,
Right.
but really no one cares. Okay. Number two, what are you going to do about it? And that's when it hits them. What are you going to do about it? You can focus on your whining, and it ain't going away, or you can try to find a solution to the situation. Now, maybe you don't have a solution. That you can ask for assistance from somebody. Then people would hear you out.
Right.
And they appreciate that. They take that advice. Yeah.
Right. So the people were unable to make that step. And
No.
Kadosh Baruch Hu has
Had it. He says,
Yeah.
I'm going to plague them with a dever, some type of disease, right? And I'm going to make out of you a great and powerful nation.
This is not the first time
No.
he's saying this either. He
No.
said this back with Egel Zahav as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Meaning God says, I want to get the best nation, and the best person on the planet is you, Moshe.
Right.
Okay? So now Moshe says, hold on a second. And the Egyptians are going to hear that you took the people out of Egypt with your great strength. Within its own midst, you took them out. Right? And they're going to tell the people who live in Canaan that heard about you, right? You are inside these people. You are part of these people who interacted with you meaning directly, right? And you have this anan, this cloud over them, and you guide them all the time with a cloud during the day and a pillar of fire during night, and suddenly you're going to kill this entire nation as one people, as one human, and then all the goyim, all the nations are going to hear about you, and they're going to say, mi bilti yecholet Adonai. It's because God wasn't able to bring this nation into the land that He promised them, and He slaughtered them in the desert. That is such a powerful statement that Moshe is saying. How does God want to be viewed? Does God want to be viewed as the creator, the sustainer, the redeemer, the one who takes us out of bad situations? And that's how He sanctifies His name? Or Moshe is saying, what? Do you want to do the opposite and nobody's going to want to believe in you and trust you? They're going to say, you're a weak God. You're weak. The Chachamim in the Talmud, in Masechet Barachot, I think it's on page 32, 33, somewhere, they have a whole fascinating derasha about this whole thing, by the way. Fascinating derasha. And they take the word Mibilti Yecholet Adonai. Right? The word Yecholet is feminine. So what do they make a derasha on? The word Yecholet. Okay. They're going to say, God's great power, right? Tashash kohoka nekeva. His power weakened like a woman. Powerful statement they're saying. Basically what it means is that, women, they get very emotional and then they calm down right away. Right. To calm down a woman is much easier than to calm down a guy, a man. Okay? We have more anger. Yeah. So they're going to say that you have the strength of like a woman. And keep in mind, we're talking about a very masculine society that they respect strength. Till today, what do people in the Middle East respect? Dialogue? No. Hence Iran. Dialogue? Nothing. Only strength, but brutal strength they respect. Till today, nothing's changed. Here, the Torah Sheba'al Peh of those people, nothing's changed. Right? So Moshe and the Chachamim, in a sense, are saying, that's how you want to be presented? That's how you want to manifest yourselves as weak? I mean, that derashah that they make is wow. Okay?
Very powerful. Yeah.
So now what does Moshe say? And this is the part I want to get to. Moshe says, and now, Yigdalna koach Adonai. Oh! The word Yigdal means let it be stronger. Let your strength be stronger, like grow. But Saadia, Gaon, which I love what he says there, he says, Yidgale. Make your strength be revealed. Reveal your strength, just like you said. How is Moshe Rabbeinu going to demonstrate to God that his strength is real strength? God, you are Erech Apayim. You take long to get upset. You're very patient. Rav Chesed, you go beyond. You go beyond kindness for humanity and all living life, right? You forgive people, right? Sometimes, people get caught in their own web and they get tangled up and they have to live their own consequences. But anybody who asks for forgiveness, you are the one who forgives. Please forgive this nation with your great kindness and grace, just in the same way that you took them out of Egypt up until this point, because they messed up throughout a year and a half, non-stop,
Yeah.
and please do the same thing here. Right. But see, look what Moshe is using. He says the word Yigdalna, right? Let your power be revealed. Kegodel chasdecha. See? Godel also. The greatness of your kindness and grace. Wow. For the Jewish mind, it's true. God, all powerful. Creator. Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora. Oh, yes. But the true greatness of God is that He's patient with us. And this is what Ibn Ezra also says. He says, great strength is demonstrated through patience.
It's like what Chachamim say. Ezehu Gibor.
There's also in Eastern cultures, like in Japanese cultures, they have that. Like true strength is patience and silence. Basically, I'm not going to respond to the reaction.
I'm going to process it.
And then I'm going to acknowledge the need.
Right. In a way, here, so I'll bridge this with, and this is a point that Rabbi Sachs makes a lot, alav shalom, that Rabbi Sachs, he loves bringing up the story with Eliyahu Navi, when after the showdown with not with Achav, with the Nevi'im Baal, right? And then he goes to the cave, and he gets a nevuah from God, and God appears. He sees the lightning, he sees the fire, he sees all the wonders in the world, and he's like, I'm here, God, I'm here. And right, God isn't there, so to speak, but it's when he hears like the nice, like the soft, kol demama, right? Voice, yes. A soft voice. That's when God responds back to him. And the point is that as great and mighty as God is, like to echo what you were saying, it's not just about the might, but it's about beyond that, the calmness, the stillness of God as well, and being able to give that sort of response in a measured, cool, calm, collected way, without any vindication, without any revenge, without any destruction, and right? Fascinating, really interesting.
So I wanted to touch on that point. I think again it's a powerful point for us to be able to establish better, really better, our relationship with God.
And man.
Yeah.
and children,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
family,
and
friends, and work.
and the reason why the Torah is bringing this, and the reason why it's demonstrated in the way that it is between God and Moshe and God, right? It's not that God is changing and all that. God is through this dialogue that He has with Moshe, God is teaching humanity.
Right.
Okay? It's as if God is watering Himself down to our level to understand better ourselves, to have better relationships, and it's because it's a challenge. It's not easy. It's very it's a training. It's a rigorous training that one needs to have in order to do their best on this. Even Moshe Rabbeinu snapped.
Everybody snaps.
Yeah.
Everyone. But it's about
Yeah.
how it becomes how often.
How
you snap,
often.
how grand the snapping is, right? How many books have been written on having healthy relationships, and how often does it point to take a deep breath, collect yourself, relax, and then respond.
Right.
Don't just
Because
respond
we are first and foremost impulsive beings.
Yeah.
That's first and foremost. Okay. So that's I think a beautiful idea of the parasha. So now.
We had some questions.
Yes.
From the prior episode about.
Yes, and if there are questions that the audience might have,
Yeah.
they can definitely send to us and we can address it.
Yeah.
To elaborate more.
Yeah, 100%. Any questions on any topics, and even topics that were not covered, anything that piques anyone's curiosity, more than happy to address any of them, and we can dedicate time to studying it and dedicate time to unpacking it on the podcast as well. So the first question that I got.
First, do the second one.
I'll do this. Sure. So I'll do the second question first, and the second question is as follows: Your father spoke of why not being given that by the Torah, but up to us to define in each generation. I've come upon this in regards to chukim before. Why give specific mitzvot without reason then? If they had specific reasons at the time, aren't they just meaningless now, or just making excuses to keep them?
It's a very valid question. The Jewish people who received the Torah and the mitzvot as to how they want to be able to govern themselves, both in their private and public life, in the land of Israel, and even eventually outside the land of Israel, they understood why these mitzvot were given to them. They understood them. The obvious ones, the justice ones, the civil ones, all that is very obvious, reasonable. Whether certain things you can agree with the deal or not, that's not the point. Those are pretty much obvious. The standards of society for there to be a more cohesive society, so it functions. Okay, you can definitely take a nice chunk of the mitzvot and say, okay, that's in that category. Well, it's obvious. Great. As well as other nations have the same or similar. Okay. But what about the ones that, like the funny ones, the interesting ones? Yeah. Well, like the whole thing of purity and impurity, the purpose of the sacrifices, the specific way of how God wants us to worship Him. Some people even say kosher laws.
Right.
So, to them, it was very clear, or else they would not have agreed to it being in the covenant. That is the fundamental premise. The covenant was first and foremost an agreement. So whatever they accepted and received is because they agreed upon it. If it was not agreed upon, it's not in the covenant. That is first the fundamental platform of the Berit, of the Torah. Fine. Now, there are different terminologies in the Torah itself that define or specify legalities. Right? You have the word Torah, which means law. You even have Torah when it comes to the korbanot. So it's not the Torah itself, it means the laws of the korbanot, the procedure of how to do korbanot.
Right, like
okay? Torah ha'asham is the procedure of how something is done, X, Y, and Z, and this and this and that. And it also, even I think in Para Aduma, you have to, Chukat Torah. So it's the procedure of how to do the Para Aduma, the ritual of the red heifer. Okay, fine. Then you have Mishpatim. Okay, so Mishpatim are the judicial elements of a society. You're dealing with courts, you're dealing with trials, witnesses, evidence, as well as a justice system in general. We'll call that jurisprudence. The application of law is also the Mishpatim. Okay, fine. Then you have Hukim, you have Hok. Now, there are things in the Torah that the word Hok and Hukim appear, and it makes sense. The Kurban Pesach, Hukah. Oh yeah, I know why we need to do Kurban Pesach. It's a remembrance of what happened in Mitzrayim. We eat it together as a family because this is what we went through, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so even the word Hok, and Hukim, in the Torah itself, is sometimes used with things that, okay, I can understand it historically. I get it. Even you have Bikurim. In the Bikurim, the mitzvah of first fruits, it says Hok, about the first fruits. Oh, I can understand that. I'm saying thank you to God, first fruit, then I can partake. I'm recognizing that I'm grateful. Okay, there's, okay, fine. Comes certain things in the Torah that this is bizarre. Right? Like Para Aduma, you have Chukah, red heifer. How does this whole thing work? And then you also have Chukim that has to do with kashrut. Then you have Chukim that has to do with Tum'an Tahara, purity and impurity, depending on what exactly they're talking about in what case and scenarios. So there you have Chachamim, okay, and that say these are things that are like we don't know what they mean, okay, to the point where they take the example of Para Aduma, the best example they take. We don't know how this thing works. We just know it works, right? And we're just doing exactly as prescribed in order for us to do this ritual, from going from a state of impurity of a dead to a state of purity that the person can now come to the sanctuary. And we don't know how it works. And even Shlomo HaMelech didn't know how it works. They even say that. Even Shlomo HaMelech didn't know how it works. Shlomo HaMelech, really? The guy who built the Bet HaMikdash and all that? It's like, right? So they're basically saying, we have no idea what this is about. They're saying it, we don't know. Okay? Yeah. Whether Shlomo knew or not, it's a reflection on themselves, right. Not on Shlomo.
It's an exaggeration. To prove a point.
Okay? Now, Rashi also has a comment on the word chok, that he says, he uses this point that we have no idea, that these are beyond our understanding. Basically, they're beyond reason. And and pretty much the category of chukim in general are mitzvot that we don't have a reason. We don't know, and therefore we need to follow them based on blind faith. That's what Rashi says. Okay? The other tradition says, no. If we can find reasons to understand why these things were given to the Jewish people in that time, and we can see the reason, and it makes sense to us, then we can accept it. That's more of the Harambam.
Right, and
Moreh Nevuchim, as well as the Geonim. That's the same tradition. Okay. Ibn Ezra. Okay? Yeah. So you have two different perspectives. One says that there are certain mitzvot we'll never be able to understand, and sometimes they even say it's mystical.
It's beyond reason.
Okay, but it's also mystical. Okay, that only certain people are able to understand that, certain mystics, and therefore it teaches us that you need to have blind faith with God, whereas the other side says we need to find understanding why we do things in order for our connection with God to be stronger based on knowledge. Now, why is that important? If one goes through life with blind faith, at one point they're going to hit a wall. Why? Our brain is designed and hardwired to be inquisitive. A brain that does not develop, that is static, is mentally ill. The wiring is off. It's not designed that way. It's designed to find out, to understand,
It's like a child.
to think.
It's like a child.
Yeah.
Why do we do this? And why do we do that? And
It's
what's
not the
that?
child, it's the brain.
The brain telling, right. It's coming out of the, right. Okay.
Right?
Right.
Right. So our relationship with God, as we said in the past, is not based on blind faith. Oh no. Hence the revelation.
Right.
Okay? In addition to this, God, very often the Torah says about knowing Him. Ata hor'eta ladat. You were shown in order to know that Adonai is your God. Okay? V'yadata hayom, and today you will know that Adonai is your God. Everything in the Torah that has to do with our faith in God is based on to know. To know. The Torah says this explicitly. So how can you come and tell me that I should have blind faith? The Torah tells me, no. You need to find out. Now, how does Rambam explain the whole thing of knowing God? In two ways. One, through creation. He's the creator. You're going to see how God manifests His intelligence, and that is one way of how you know God. Hence, you're going to want to be more attached to God, which is going to lead you to ahavat Adonai, love of God, through that way, right? As well as the Torah itself. He gave us these laws, Misvot, for our own benefit. We need to study them, understand them. What good does it do for us? Maybe we're not going to know all of it. That's fine. But we'll definitely see the results of what it leads to if properly observed, not through blind faith. Blind faith, unfortunately, leads to two things. Either it makes somebody a non-believer, because at one point you hit a wall, you become an adult in your 40s and 50s, and you say, what am I doing all this for? Why is it that I can understand everything that I do in my secular life, but I have no understanding of what I do in my observance life? I personally know people like that. And the reason why they keep being part of a Jewish community, even in Hollywood, is because they see the benefit that it's good to be in a community, but their belief is zero.
It's very weak.
No. Their belief say, I don't believe in any of this. I just do it because it's good for my children. Really? So basically, it's because they're smart people, they're intelligent people, they're professionals. They're very good in what they do. They learn, they understand, but they've never been given a good reason for what the Torah is all about, what the mitzvot. No, just a lot of weird, irrational, unreasonable explanations that I either need to be a person of blind faith or a complete ignoramus, that I'm not allowed to use my mind. I can't think critically. So it either makes one, I'm not interested in this, or it makes one more of a fanatic. Whereas the other side, when we're using this, our mind, to understand, and knowing that we're limited, it means balance, brings meaning. I get it. I see the brilliance. I see the genius of the Torah. What it's really about. I see the background of where it's coming from. I see the background of who these people were. Oh, I don't have the same background, obviously. So how can I expect to have the same explanation?
I'll take it a step further. I think in the second camp, where you use your reason and knowledge to find the meaning, even if you're unable to find the meaning within itself, and you say, I just don't know, but I'm sure there's an answer.
Yes.
It also has an effect on you, because you realize you just can't figure it all out sometimes.
And brings humility.
Brings humility.
More than this. What the camp of blind faith does basically becomes a camp of total control by those who have authority to tell the people what is and what is not. You can't think for yourself.
If you do.
More than this, if you do, you're heretic. How dare you think differently? You're boxed. Whereas the other camp, which is more open-minded, we're trying to understand things better, and we have dialogue. There's no room for control. It's a clash.
Go back to the propaganda point.
Yeah. It's a clash. It's a clash of ideologies. Way back, even till now, we're living it.
Oh, it hasn't stopped.
It hasn't stopped.
This is the story of civilization.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So go back to chukim. Now the word chok has multiple meanings. If we're dealing with the category of legality, it could mean law, it could mean custom, it could be a legal practice, right? But the word chok also means to carve out something, to make something hollow. It also means to encircle, depending on the context, if you're using it in the Tanakh or as well as in rabbinic literature and the Talmud. So that is where this whole thing of chok comes from. Now, why is it important to understand that the Torah is God conveying His will to humanity in order for humanity to live by it, to be guided by it, and to connect with God. You can't do that with a healthy mind unless you're thinking, unless you're trying to understand. You can't. Even prayer is different with those who have blind faith and for those who are trying to critically understand.
And find meaning in it.
And find, it's everything.
The approach is different, for sure.
Yeah. So again, different tradition.
Right. It reminds me, as I started studying Chovot HaLevavot in the middle of it, and in the introduction, and even after the introduction, I'm in the first chapter. It's on Shar Yichud Hashem, and he discusses within it, and in the introduction, it's fascinating what Ibn Pakuda does, where he says, and it seems like this is going to be a theme throughout the book, which is to have faith and rely on tradition. That's the basis. That's not the end. That's not the answer. You're supposed to develop your reason and sharpen your reason, your understanding and your logic in order to find even deeper meanings, so that you have the chovot halev, so that you have that purity of your heart, so that you have that connection, relationship with God.
But that's the tradition.
That's the tradition. Right.
Now the one who really is the pioneer, who started this trailblazer thing and methodology and really and presented a systematic way and probed ideas really deep was Saadia Gaon.
Right.
Now, it's not that he's getting out of thin air. No, it's a tradition of the academies of the Geonim. It's a tradition from where he comes from Egypt. This was part of that world. And this is going to lead us to the next question. So going back to the whole thing of chok, yes, in general, the standard explanation is the chokim are things that are beyond reason and logic. I disagree. I believe chokim are certain categories of law that are complex, right? Mm-hmm. But if we are able to broaden our reading in literature that explains to us the minds of ancient people, of how they lived, of their lens, and again, not our lens, their lens, what did it mean to them, then we can definitely be able to understand why certain mitzvot, why certain rituals, you do X, Y, and Z, you get X, Y, and Z result. Why? Right. And don't think that it's impossible. No. Right. No. Okay. So I think it's a very important point to emphasize. Again, I choose the tradition of being able to unfold, to being able to use information, literature that explains ancient people.
Yeah. I'll go to the second question now. The second question was as follows: what caused the Muslim civilizations to not have another golden age? While Christendom was in the dark ages, Al-Andalus and Baghdad prospered. However, after the Renaissance and especially after the Enlightenment, Christian nations prospered while Muslim nations do not seem to have achieved another major era of discovery and production. Why?
That's an interesting historical question. One thing we need to understand very clearly that amongst the Arabian people, and when I say Arabian people, it's not only in Arabia, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, what became the whole Muslim world. There are dozens and dozens, if not a few hundred different factions within them, because it's extremely tribal. Now keep in mind, when Muhammad, and later on after he died, his followers, they kept conquering huge vast territories and introducing as well as imposing Islam on them. You're dealing with different cultures, different villages, towns, different faiths that are very, very, very ancient. It wasn't one, it wasn't two. It was dozens and dozens and dozens of them. Right? So within these factions, till today, there's conflict. There's conflict. It's not only the Shiites and the Sunnis. It's not. It's way, way more. It's way, way more. That there's clashes. Right? After Muhammad dies, right away, they start killing each other. Who's going to be the leader? Literally, chopping people's heads off. Among themselves, his own followers. It's a violent faith. It's very violent, unfortunately. So getting back to this, you have eventually three caliphates. Right? You have the Rumidiyya, something like that. I forgot the name of it. Then you have the Umayyad, Bit Umayyah, okay? Then you have Bit Abbas, the Abbasides. The Umayyads eventually defeat the first one, caliphate, and then the Umayyads are defeated by the Abbasides around 715, 720 of the Common Era. They eventually establish a very strong caliphate where they make Baghdad the capital of Islam, also the caliphate, and that is where the ruling. Hence, you can understand why the yeshivot also had enormous jurisdiction, because the yeshivot were in Iraq. They were connected with also Baghdad and all that. They were also able to have jurisdiction, which is very interesting. Okay. Both academies in Talmud. Then they continue to do more conquest, eventually reaching Spain, and then you have Andalus. Now, what was unique about them, they were more interested not only in conquest, but they were also interested in literature, poetry, music, law, math, grammar, philology, Arabic, expanding, commentary on the Quran, okay, poetry, philosophy. That was something that led to the golden age of Islam, we'll call it, which eventually is also the golden age of Spain. Of that whole region, enormous contributions, enormous renaissance. That's the first renaissance, by the way. Mm-hmm. Okay, but it's because that caliphate, right, was not only were they more tolerant, but they were also more inviting to have, what else can you contribute to make us stronger? When they did that, people were also more open to engage and not feel the only one hostility against us. Very smart. One of the reasons why they were this way is because some of the leaders were Jewish who converted to Islam. So they also are the ones that propagated and moved it. And it's not only about conquest. Hence, what you have in the early 11th century, you have Shmuel HaNagid. Shmuel HaNagid was not only a great rabbinic scholar, he was the head of the military of a huge Muslim army in North Africa.
Right. Yeah.
Just fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, he wielded immense power.
So during this age, it was great, wonderful. What happened? There, I think, around in the 13th century, that caliphate was defeated by the Mongols, decimated. Baghdad was decimated. When I say decimated, slaughtered. The Mongols, they slaughtered millions of people, literally. That really brought down, that whole Renaissance. That's what really, stifled it. Eventually, also what stifled it in Spain, the church, with their Catholic army, eventually are able to throw out the caliphate from Andalusia, from southern Spain, and basically making all of Spain Catholic. And since Europe was still living in the Dark Ages up until the early 1600s, nothing was really happening. So it stifled what the golden age of Islam did, but it didn't stop us. We continued. Both in Europe and, by the way, in the Middle East. We continued because we had the tools to do it. Okay. Eventually, you have another caliphate that was eventually squashed in the mid-1500s by the Ottoman Empire. Okay. So why is it that, whereas Europe suddenly has this whole enlightenment and the Middle East doesn't? It's because you have one or two ways in order to govern. You either govern through total mass control, through violence, and hence you have very little output from the people, okay? Or you govern openly. And that is something that still today, in many Muslim countries, they feel it's a threat. Because they're afraid the uprising of the people, of all the different factions that they're going to topple. Keep in mind, in Jordan, for example, the ones who are the Hashemites, when England and the Allies, they gave them Jordan and all that, they were the minority. They were really the minority. And they were given to govern the majority. There's resentment. In Saudi Arabia, the same. In the majority of these countries, it's the same.
You can't do much about it, right?
So how does Jordan rule? Like this. You say something, boom, you're done. Saudi Arabia, the same. UAE, the same. Kuwait, the same. Qatar, the same. They understand. Egypt, the same. They understand the only way to govern these masses is through violence and the threat of violence and force. Therefore, you don't have great thinkers and change. That's why it's still very oppressive. You allow the human mind to flourish without fear and threat, it does wonders. When you stifle it, it's shut down. Now, what happened in Europe? Look, the fact is that all of the brilliant scientists, be it in the 15th, 16th century, just in that age, all Bible God people, across the board. Why is it that they had this desire to do this? It's because we want to understand God's world based on what the Bible says. By the way, the 17th century was known to be the century of the Bible in Europe, because at that time also, the Bible, okay, suddenly the openness of it, the printing press, and we can understand it in multiple ways, in different ways, and not only what the church says.
Changed a lot.
Yeah, changed a lot.
Right. Galileo was the first victim, but from him,
it came out.
Summed up. Right.
Yeah.
Because they exposed the church for.
Now, the reason why church had very little advancements in Renaissance and all up until the 1600s, whatever it is. Why? Yeah, because the church didn't allow it. Mind control.
Right.
It's mind control.
Right. So really, with the printing press and eventually the ability for people to then educate themselves and read and study on their own and say, I see things differently than what the authority is saying.
Yeah.
It started trickling more and more amongst the people, and then it opened up a whole plethora of discovery during that time. And then just hasn't really stopped.
No, it hasn't stopped.
No.
Thank God.
No, thank God is right. I mean,
Thank God. It's just our concern now is, what are we using it for? This is the concern.
right. To what end?
To what end? And if it's good, if it's evil, if it's dangerous, not. I mean, we need to be very careful. We're heading into territory that is so unknown to us. We have no idea. Both, be it in the scientific world when it comes to genetics, biology, as well as when it comes to artificial intelligence.
AI, yeah.
We have no idea what we're getting into. This is something that Dr. Roman was talking to me about. He says, I'm very afraid of what we're going to be using this for. He's very skeptical.
I understand that.
You know, and the people that, you know, the honest AI developers, they also say they're afraid, and this is something that's very concerning. That is why we need God's guidance, and we need leaders who believe in God's guidance, and legislators who believe in the Torah, in the Bible. I don't care if they're Christian. They believe in the Bible. This is not allowed. We're not allowed to do this.
Right. There needs to be some guard.
There has to be. This is where the Torah comes in order to balance things out. That, how do we deal with this?
It's kind of like, and I think to finish off on this point, like Midal Bavel, right? With the
Absolutely.
right, like the advancements that they had when they started building, right? And they were able to discover and figure out how to start building a tower, and we're going to build in God, and the Midrashim that they're going to war with God, and the whole thing.
That whole idea, yeah.
Because of the technology.
War with God basically means we don't need you to tell us how to use our technology. That's what they were saying to.
Yeah.
But they self-destructed.
Right.
Which happens very, very, very often, both on our personal lives and on a national scale.
Yeah.
It keeps happening.
Yeah.
I think we covered some
covered a lot of ground. Covered a lot of ground, ranging. Yeah, no, it's great. But these topics are so fundamental and so crucial to understand and dig deeper and repeat and dig deeper, and coming from all different angles. And by being able to draw on all the sources and reference all different books, whether it's from Western literature, whether it's history, whether it's the Near East archaeology, sociology, anthropology, the Tanakh, Chazal, you name it, we continue to bridge those pieces together, and we're able to then understand better and deeper what the Torah is about.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. So until next week, right?
Next week, yes.
Yeah. So God willing, next week we'll continue, and another topic again. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Chazak.